Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So inshallah, the reminder today will be from verse 55 of Surah Al-Baqarah. We know, all of us know, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us on this earth for a test. But that test has different aspects. So today we will start with reminding ourselves, which we already know, but just to put the proper perspective, we'll go through that what are the kind of tests we are being done, and then we'll come to the verse 55 to see what lessons it gives us. So when we talk about the test for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in this temporary world and given us limited period of time to live here, and there are two kind of situations we come across here. One is those matters of ghaib, those are realities there which are unperceivable to us. We cannot perceive them, we cannot understand them, we cannot know them on our own. And then the second part is the normal, our matters of this world, where we everything is perceivable, and those are matters of shahada. So the first are matters of ghaib, and these are the matters of shahada. And in both situations, our test is of different category. So in the matters of ghaib, now a lot of people who don't believe, they deny it. And there are people who have faith, and that faith can be blind or it can be rational. Because if people have thought about it, reflected upon it, then it will be a rational faith, and it will not be blind faith, because blind faith usually takes people to misguide us. It's only rational faith which brings people to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and where people have proper faith and beliefs. And that rational faith is achieved through three sources. One is that reflection on the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this universe. So when people reflect on those signs, they are guided, they recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator, the sole creator who has created everything. So through those signs we are guided. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent the messengers who, on the direct knowledge they get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they guide us and they witness about the truth of those matters of ghaib. And the third thing is that those messengers are granted by the miracle by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So through those three means, taking logical, rational approach, we arrive at the rational faith. So on the other hand, those matters which are perceivable matters in this world, we can be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we can rebel against Him. Like we can do His ibadah, or we can rebel against Him. So when what is Allah expecting us? In the first part, the expectation was that the people, the test which we are going through is that whether people can think rationally and say labbaik to the message of the messengers and believe in the matters of ghaib. In this here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting that whatever is a part of our life, every segment of our life, every aspect of our life, we will be obeying Allah's commands, and we will be worshipping only Him. So then the ibadah takes two aspects. And so one is that obedience in every aspect of the world, and the second is worshipping him when he is in ghaib, without having anything in front of us, without having anything physical which we can perceive in front of us, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there watching us, and so we worship him. So the point is that the tests we go through, number one, that instead of just relying on physical things which we perceive, can we look at the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take the witness from the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and believe in the matters of ghaib? That's the first test. So that rationally we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second test is, from practical point of view, that do we bring our whole life in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once we have recognized him through our rational beliefs, and do we worship him without needing anything physical in front of us? Because we are accustomed to live in this world on the perceivable matters, that we want to deal with everything which is physical. So can we are being tested, can we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without having anything solid in front of, just when he is in ghaib? So these are various aspects of the test for which Allah has put us on this earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting us that we believe in him with ghaib, and we worship in ghaib, and we bring all our life in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why we reminded ourselves about these aspects of test? That this has been expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from all people since Adam alayhi salam, and the same expectations were from the Bani Israel. So and they were not only supposed to believe in this manner, but they were also supposed to spread these values and these paradigms to the people of the world, give the message of Islam to them. And so what happened? That instead of believing in this manner, you can imagine that as I mentioned last week, that Musa alayhi salam had taught them, he has presented them the signs of nature to them to reflect upon. He had given his witness that he has talked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I have brought message from him. All he had shown, there were 9 major miracles which were shown to them when they were still in Egypt. The whole Egyptian population had seen those miracles. So after watching those miracles, after having witness from the Musa alayhi salam, after having all those things, still, and then when they were migrating from Egypt out to Mount Sinai, they saw that when armies and Pharaoh followed them, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them. So they had seen that demonstration as well. So that was the 10th, you can say, miracle in front of them, that Allah parted sea for them, and they were able to cross while Pharaoh and his armies drowned in there. Even then, when Musa alayhi salam went for 40 days itikaf, they started worshipping a golden calf. And as I mentioned last week, that this was because they were too much accustomed to what they were witnessing in the society in Egypt. Egyptians were worshipping a lot of physical things like that, and they were also worshipping Apis bull, and they had special temples for that worship of Apis bull, and they had adopted those kind of values instead of taking the approach which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was expecting them as Muslims. Now, not only that, when Musa alayhi salam came back to them and for their crime of worshipping calf, they were punished. The die-hard people who had the love of this calf in their heart, they were killed. A lot of people were killed. The rest, 17 leaders went with Musa alayhi salam to the Mount Sinai, and they sought forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was kind and merciful to them, and they were forgiven. But then, what happened? That they demanded Musa alayhi salam that Arinallah jahratan, means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they went وَإِذْ وَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 40 لَيْلَةً ثُمَّ اتَّخَذْتُمُ الْعِجْلَ مِنْ بَعْدِ وَأَنْتُمْ ظَالِمُونَ ثُمَّ عَفَوْنَا عَنْكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ يَا قَوْمِ إِنَّكُمْ ظَلَمْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. This is the part which we have already talked about, that they sought the forgiveness and Allah forgave them. So what is this verse 55? وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ يَا مُوسَى لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرًا. That when you said, "O Musa, we are not going to believe in you, حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرًا," that unless we have seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have perceived Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have means perceived him physically and seen him physically, so we are not going to believe in you. So you can imagine that they were expected to believe when Allah was in Ghaib and worship him in that manner, but still they could not even believe properly. They could not understand the attributes of Allah properly, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite, and finite creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot see him or perceive him. And then they insisted that you show us. All those miracles didn't work, all the parting of the sea didn't work, all the rational thinking didn't work, and they still insist that they want to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the message from this incident for us? That number one, that when we are living in a society where people do not, majority of people, their overwhelming environment is not conducive to proper faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when people are not taking the rational thinking and believing rationally in the matters of ghaib, and then accepting Islam and living accordingly, then we have to be very careful that ourselves and our children are not affected by what is happening in the society. Because if we don't take special precautions, if we are not on our guard, if we are not training ourselves and our children to think rationally and accept Islam rationally, they will be affected by the society around them. They will be taking their values, they will be adopting their paradigms, they will be adopting their attitude, they will be adopting their culture, they will be adopting their ways of living, and what they like will become their likes, and what they dislike, they become their dislike. Instead of taking all these values, all these paradigms, all these what we like and what we not like from the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should learn to think rationally ourselves and train our children, and we should ensure that we never feel the need of having anything physical in front of us when we are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can see that if we are not careful in that, people if you see in Muslim societies, a lot of people still, instead of worshipping purely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they fall into worshipping the graves of the people who have passed before and many other things like that. And also in our the test of our obedience, people are not bringing their whole life into the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it should be brought. So these are a few reminders from verse 55 that I just wanted to remind myself and you. Inshallah, is Brother Ustad not here today? He was going to do the seerah. Brother Bilal? Okay. So we had made the arrangements that I'll be doing very brief reminder from the Quran, and Brother Shaykh Usta will be giving a brief reminder from Seerah. So I think he couldn't come today. Last week he was here, but inshallah we'll continue in that manner. So I kept my comments limited to this one verse. So inshallah we'll continue next Sunday. If there are any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, Jazakumullah khairan, and inshallah we'll talk to you next Sunday. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.